I'll be discussing the book Training the Mind and Cultivating Loving Kindness by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. This book is based on the Atishan slogans, and there are 59 slogans. These teachings were transmitted from teacher to student for nearly 1,000 years. This book was compiled from the teachings that Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche gave his students for nearly a decade. And many people were involved in its creation. There's a lot that can be said about the author. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche fled Tibet in 1959 during the Chinese invasion. He lived in India and Scotland before residing in the US. He arrived at a time when there were hippies, LSD, and various freedom movements. Instead of presenting himself in monk's robes with Tibetan traditions, he styled himself after his students. His teaching methods were unconventional and controversial. The teachings are Vajrayana, which in my opinion is pretty advanced. This book and its teachings are an important part of my personal practice. I like to approach it as physical therapy for the mind. I wouldn't necessarily recommend these practices to be used in your everyday life, at least not all of them. I actually think that it could be harmful to do that. They're kind of like medicine, like prescription medicine. You would not want to take a lot of it. For me, I like to contemplate the slogans and apply them to my personal situations. Oftentimes I'll notice a shift after doing that. And this can give you a kind of counter ego workout. The first slogan I'd like to discuss is one that I would consider to be the prescription medicine that you should not use in your everyday life. It's slogan number 12, drive all blames into one. What this is saying is that in a situation where there is blame that could be placed, you would actually take on all of the blame on yourself. The way that Rinpoche explains this is that blame can be like a sticky football filled with goo, and blame actually prevents people from communicating, from understanding each other. It can create walls and barriers to prevent understanding. So by taking the blame onto yourself, whether you were to blame or not, you're actually removing the obstacle. And that's kind of a hard thing for a lot of us to do, because it's more natural for us to want to be right. It's more natural for us to want to be the one who comes out looking good and make the other person look bad. So to drive all blames into one is really challenging your ego, while also allowing the walls to come down, to allow for the communication, to allow for peacemaking. The next slogan I'm going to discuss is slogan number 4, and it's self-liberate even the antidote. And the antidote could be meditation or any part of your practice. What we do a lot of times is we become so attached and fixated to the antidote that we're not really getting the benefit of it. So you might say, well, I've got to meditate and I'm getting better at meditating, and you're really missing the point of the meditation, which is not to be good at it. It's not to become a great meditator or anything like that. The point of meditation is to understand your mind and to overcome your self-deceptions. I also want to bring up something that I find very interesting in a funny way, is that there's this commercialization of the word Zen. So you might see advertisements, and Zen is used to mean tranquil or blissed out or something like that. And for anyone who has ever sat in Zazen, there is nothing tranquil or blissed out about sitting for long periods of time and staring into your own mind. I think it's more like sitting through a hurricane. So I just thought that was a funny thing to point out. The next slogan I'd like to discuss is slogan number 20. Of the two witnesses, hold the principal one. And what this one means is that a lot of times in your life you're going to encounter people who have an opinion of you. And then there's going to be what you think of yourself. And this slogan means that even though somebody might have an opinion of you, you want to be in a place where you hold the opinion of yourself to be the principal one. And you can do this best when you get to know yourself better. And the last slogan I'd like to discuss is actually the last slogan of the book, number 59, and it's don't expect applause. And I really like this slogan because it really gets to the reality of things, in that a lot of times people do things expecting a reward to come from it. I did something nice and they didn't acknowledge it, so you're kind of expecting applause. If you were doing something with a genuine heart, you think of yourself as a caring person, it wouldn't matter whether somebody acknowledged it. It wouldn't matter that people think of you in a certain way. So don't expect applause is another challenge to the ego, saying do it for the real reason. Don't do it because of what you expect out of it. So I highly recommend this book to anyone. I do think that reading it thoroughly, understanding what the slogans mean is important, so that you don't misunderstand. That could actually possibly be harmful, but if you do read it and get the understanding of what the teacher is explaining, I think it is a fantastic workout for your mind and a great challenge for your ego. I'm wishing you so much tranquility and bliss on your path. Okay, stop that.